welcome to another episode of Purple Ponderings with Pankaj. Today we have with us Robin Luo from Hartford, a very interesting and different personality than who we've had so far. So I'm very excited about today's interview with Robin. But before we begin, Robin, do you want to just introduce yourself? What do you do, and so that our listeners can have a better sense of your background?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Pankaj. This is exciting for me and to be on your show. My name is Robin Luo. I work for Hartford Steam Boiler Inspection Insurance Company. It is a part of the Munich Re family. Have been with the company for many years, and my role, responsibility is we kind of started 6-7 years ago in the commercial IoT initiative. And those days, IoT was not even coined. So we put a lot of effort. We developed the business, and we developed quite a couple of technology solutions or startups. And we kind of moving forward. 6-7 years later, I'm here, and I'm responsible for the really product management and the commercialization of the commercial IoT solutions for the organization here.
Awesome. You know, Robin, one of the things that struck me when I was talking to you earlier was that you've been with Hartford way more than that, right? I think overall in the insurance industry, you've been. Talk to us a little bit about your background as well, as in what were you when you started off, and you got into IoT, and I'm also curious to know what did you call IoT 6 years ago when it was not known as IoT? So.
Yeah, so I have been with Hartford Steam Boiler for about 18 years, and time flew by. And by the way, today is my 16 years anniversary marriage. So kind of time flew by.
Congratulations, sweet 16.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing. Time flew by, and when you have good times, I guess. IoT. Just think about this. 6-7 years ago, IoT was barely coined. There was no commercial IoT per se. And you ask many people what IoT means, people kind of scratch their head. So you tell me, that's the Internet of Things. And oh, that's new. So we don't know what it means. But today, this is a part of the life. And that tells you that in the technology space, things change, things move, and at a very different speed. And one thing I often, interesting to hear is I personally work with a lot of top-tier insurance companies, or all insurance companies in a different variety, and risk-taking entities, if you will. And insurance often, at least in the past, the impression is that insurance move at a slower speed, right, and a different speed, if you will. But I think we now pushed into a different pace, and I'm just very glad I was part of have been part of the organization that it's just really very entrepreneurial. We have a great leadership team, a great CEO, and it's just a lot of fun to work with them.
Got it. Hey, just speak a little bit up, Robin.
Okay, will do.
Just goes down a little bit. We'll edit that part out, don't worry. Question for you. So, you said something very interesting. You've been a part of a large company, yet you've been like a service provider to the insurance companies. Mm-hmm. So you have been, like, the way I see it is in a very unique position to watch the pace mm-hmm. of decision-making, mm-hmm. Pace of work, right, within insurance mm-hmm. companies. And mm-hmm. we've always, like, to those of us who've been here a while, we always know that insurance companies are just slow, right? Compared to mm-hmm. other companies, mm-hmm. technology companies or retail companies, other mm-hmm. verticals are much faster, insurance. But you said something that you're seeing it change. So talk to me a little bit about what has changed, right? If you're seeing mm-hmm. a change in pace, mm-hmm. Both internally and externally, because Hartford is also, like I mm-hmm. said, you have like almost two hats, right? One is very large company, but you have to be a service mm-hmm. provider, which is a mm-hmm. smaller aspect of HSB.
Yeah. So two parts. Let me first talk about externally. When we started the IoT journey 6-7 years ago, most of the companies just simply interested. They're curious. They don't know what it is. They don't know how to use it. They don't know how it's going to apply to them. But they're curious. They want to just play with it. They want to say, hey, let's do a couple of locations. Let's send me a couple of sensors. So tell me how it works and what does it do. And then think about this 3 years ago. I felt that 2-3 years ago, that was a major shift. IoT started to become a little bit mainstream. And the people started to think, okay, I may need to put a little bit more effort, a little bit more focus on it, because otherwise I'm falling behind. It seems this is a hot buzzword and everyone's talking about it. Am I missing something here? So that drives a bit behavior change in terms of, hey, we need to put a little bit more effort. And today, I think if any company don't put IoT as part of their strategic orientation, they're gonna fall behind because this train is moving too fast. And as a matter of fact, in the past, you can say, hey, it's just a cool technology tool and I can play with it. I don't need to have it, but it's nice to have it. I can play with it. I may get some additional insights. You look into the future is if you're not a part of it, you're behind the curve. And you will fall behind, further behind as the time drags on. And because it's not really only think about the technology tools you deploy. It is about product, service offerings, strategic orientation, data, competitive edge, long-term business transformation, long-term business competitiveness. So it threatens the survival down the road of insurance companies who is not being part of that curve. So I think that's why I see the change and also see the behavior change is now those discussions often elevates to the C-suite level. It's no longer saying, I just simply stay at pure loss control engineering tool. Now it becomes strategic orientation.
So if I were to summarize, it's a good insight, which is it's become more strategic than tactical, right? And it's become more, sort of an enterprise-centric conversation as opposed to an experimental, siloed initiative, right?
And one more thing, that's my personal experience, and I think it probably very, very representative in terms of how the industry changes. At the beginning, the industry simply look at this as, hey, can I prevent a few losses? And they view this as a cost, as an overhead, right? It's a cost investment. But then the conversation starts to change, to shift. Now it becomes, this is an investment, but as a matter of fact, that this investment can bring me a number of benefits. Loss control, loss reduction, it's just one part of it. Now I can use this to develop new coverage, new product, new services, and I can acquire new customers, and I can retain better customers, retain the customers I want. And that, we have not even touched the data for the future. So, all this put together, you think of, insurance industry, we're in a very unique position. And I think in the society, and I think we're uniquely positioned to adapt technologies and to make it a scale. Of course, the challenge is the speed, the distribution, the knowledge, the know-how, and put all these pieces together, dedication, and that will make you different.
Got it. Awesome. That's amazing. So, just on that note, if we have listeners here, because there'll be a lot of people from the insurance companies listening who, let's say, are those people who have been thinking so far more from a loss control standpoint, but, we have an opportunity to now address them. And you said something about like how this is also a way to think about new products, right? Think about customer acquisition. What are some data points? Like how can they now, is there any, successes, experiences that you've seen in the last few years, which makes a more compelling case for them?
Just think about, I often want to use, any businesses, decent sized business, let's say medium sized business, and it can be all kinds, can be habitational risks, can be campus, can be different type of facilities, any kind. They invest today in the resources in terms of labor, material, and all the effort to maintain the facilities. And they pay for the cost of them, and they incur cost if, let's say, they need to repair, improve. And even if they have an insurance claim, they file the claim, now they have a business impact to the business. And so they naturally are, and they want to be part of that discussion. They want to help to their business to become more profitable, less cost, more efficient. So that's just one part in terms of value propositions. Think about the business, think about how the insurance company can help. And it's a natural logic to help. But then it comes down to the data point. Data is, today, insurance company gets data. You ask any insurance company, they say, hey, we are really data driven. We have all kinds of data. We have claims data, we have metadata, we have down breastfeed data, we have all kinds of data. We do catastrophe analysis, we do all that. Yes, they do have all those data points. That's a valid point. But all those data points are, one, it's not real time. Two, very rarely touch the operational risks, understanding how the business is operating. Three, it's looking down to the rear view mirror. And it's historical data. It's a data happened in the past. So now you take a forward view looking, is the data now you're gathering is very different. You gather how customers are managing their facilities, or what's their behavior when they receive an alert and notifications that is a critical condition. How quick do they respond? Do they respond at all? Do they take mitigation actions? And how effective are those mitigation actions? And this level of data, we never had it before as an insurance company. And two, is think about it, during the deployment of those technologies, you now gather a very different type of data. You now gather the detailed data. You gather sometimes it's an object level data, sometimes a facility detail level of data, sometimes it's a risk-oriented data. And all those data are gathered through deployment phase. When you put in the sensors in, when you put the equipment in. So it's very different. Think of is the data you gather is very different as compared to insurance company what they got in the past. And the more I often make that analogy is if I am in an insurance company, let's say I put a sensor into either a restaurant business or any other businesses. A year into it, I know more about that operation than the owner of that business, him or herself. And I will have forever competitive edge comparing to my peers. And that is the power of IoT. And nothing can change that. It will only accelerate.
Yeah, it's a great point. Great point. Let me ask you a couple of questions which sometimes I see come up. So first one is around the cost of the devices, right? Especially in a commercial context, there is this field of thought that why shouldn't the business pay for those devices, right? Because no one is interested in picking them up, or they could change the insurance carriers, and insurance carriers always are wondering, right? If I fund the cost of this and they move away, then I've lost. Why should I do that as opposed to the businesses invest? What have you experienced as a best practice in that area?
So first of all, I think that really is upon to the carrier or insurance entities or risk-taking entities to determine, explore a couple of business models. There's strategic orientation in this. One, if your initial pain point are loss reduction. Now, not all risks are created equal. So at HSB, we actually have those models to understand exactly what are the risks, what other locations or accounts have higher, let's say water risks, freeze risks, or any other risks. And in this case, you now can focus your resource and energy on those risks. So in this case, you may want to pay for it because maybe out of your 10,000 location portfolio, it's only 300 locations are generating those losses. You want to know that, you want to pinpoint that. You have two choices. One, don't renew. Two, increase the rate, change the terms and the conditions, which ensure they're gonna leave anyway by doing so. Three, maybe, hey, it's more innovative. I can renew them Maybe I can change the rates a little bit, but I'm gonna make them my customer forever because I'm going to improve their risks and in a very strategic way. So now this is option number one. Option number two is that maybe insurance company don't have to pay for everything. Insurance company can provide different type of incentives to get the customers on board. And then they pay for a portion of it. Maybe it's a base kit. Maybe it is something through terms, conditions enhancements. So like at HSB as being an insurance company, right, for 150 years, we did a lot of those. And that's one thing that we always have been helping our clients to do is, how can we help you to strategically position in a program? That program can be scalable and have multiple labs, bring significant value, not only technical side, but really bring the value, a strategic value for the company down the road and for the future. And I think it's not one tool. It is not one approach. It is a combination of tools, a combination of approaches to make this successful. So I think most of the carriers will have to think hard about this and to understand some things they may have to be brave to tackle into it because it's new. No one have done it before, but doesn't mean you cannot do it. So I think we saw a lot of the success stories, and I think this is the area that requires kind of concrete strategy, the strategic orientation approach to them.
Got it. And these, the second question that always comes up is, sort of the insured adoption, right? So like, hey, let's go through the scenario as you mentioned, right? Those are the choices. Let's say the insurance company says, you know what, I do have the ROI model with me where I can justify the investment. I'm going to do this. But now we need the businesses to cooperate, right? The insured to cooperate. Because adoption has always been one sort of challenge or a barrier that has been brought up as. So what have you seen as strategies to address that barrier?
This is a consumer behavior issue, right? Think about most of the customers, they're not going to be early adopters of technology, right? But some of them will. And just think about technology adoption curve. Start off, there's some early adapters, take it in. Then at some point of time, you reach certain mass, you start to have a click, have a change. Now start to more customers now draw into so-called, oh, this is a normal part of the business, more normal part of life. So I want to be part of it. So now you have another wave of customers joining. And then you always have some customers who will never be part of it. So don't ever think of, I'm gonna talk to this customer gonna be on it, they're gonna be on it forever. No. So the trick here is to understand the behaviors of your customers and to target customers, not only one or two small percentage of the customers, rather you think of, I know I'm going to target a larger, broad set of the customers, and some of them will be on board. And I'm going to do this repeatedly. And that's how I can achieve the success. And I'm going to set up tools and approaches to echo each of the steps I'm taking. So it's a really holistic approach that wins.
Got it. No, those are good points. But one thing that I wanted to ask you, with COVID impacting sort of the commercial businesses, more than the personal lines side, have you seen any change in consumer behaviors as a result of this, pandemic?
Absolutely. So first of all, most of our business or engagements are all in commercial businesses small to large, and from as small as a really small retail store all the way to large campuses, healthcare services, college campuses, municipal campuses, all kinds of schools. So first of all, COVID-19, it changed how the facilities are being managed, being maintained. We simply don't have enough resources on site. And a lot of times, no one is on site. So just from a risk perspective, from an operating business perspective, it's very different now. So now you really want to know what's going on when we're away, when no one is there for a period of time. So we see tick up, if you will, from the customer and the customer, for that. It's just simply they now struggle to find the tools, technologies can help them to do that. And rightly so, because they're in facilities management. If you think about the business, they manage the operations, and the owner manages their business. They don't really know the facilities that well. For example, of course, they focus on the core businesses. For the facility team, often it's a legacy business, right? A lot of people using the same approach, same tools. They really don't know what's out there. That's what I think insurance company can play such a critical role. The role that we can play is we can help them and to introduce them the best-in-class technology out there and the cost-effective tools out there can help them to really act as like a watchdog 24/7. And it can help them to manage the facilities better, reduce the cost, prevent the risks. And it's a win-win-win situation for everyone involved.
Cool. Great. It's great insight. So with that, I think, this IoT is such a topic that I think I can keep on talking on and on with you, Robin. You're obviously spent so much time in this space. So let me talk a little bit now more into sort of you as what you've experienced in your professional life. So talk to me a little bit about like what are the biggest challenges or hurdles that you faced in carrying out your role, right? Both internally and externally to the extent possible.
So IoT, from the face of it, a lot of people think IoT is sexy and it's easy. IoT, I will tell you, this is the hardest business I ever engaged. And so my background, I was an ocean marine electrical engineer trained. So I worked on the ocean marine ships, large cargo ships and container ships for several years. And I was an engineer on board. So I dealt with all kinds of stuff, and I know, but it's very tough, right? But that's single point of orientation. You maintain the facility, you maintain the ship, you maintain the electrical equipment, so kind of know it. And then I also had my career had experience to work with one of the largest so-called instrumentation company. It's an early version of such a company called Wake Alexander GmbH. It's a German company. And so that's early version of sensors, which you have run wide. And on the ship, also had a lot of exposure to sensors. Now, that's only from technical side. And for whatever reason, I went to graduate school and did statistical finance, so kind of got into the analytics and joined the insurance company for whatever reason. I never thought in my life I would join an insurance company. So for my career, that was the first challenge, first hurdle, because I thought, frankly, when I joined the insurance company, I barely know how to spell insurance. So I really didn't know what insurance is all about. And so it was a huge learning curve. What I felt was, it's cross-boundary, right? Cross-discipline. You learn one thing and now you get into another, completely unrelated. And but somehow it linked it together. It was 6-7 years ago, all of a sudden linked it together because my experience in the space, in technology, sensors, and understanding engineering, and understanding insurance now clicked, linked it together. So I kind of, one of the hurdle is how do you combine multidisciplinary expertise or knowledge and then make it useful for you, and then make, really bring more value. And this is number one. Two is in the IoT, it's truly hard. IoT involves not only technology, it is hardware, middleware, backend, platform, data, product, coverage, distribution, marketing, so I can go on and on and on. And this is only the foundation. Technology is going to change all the time. I've been in this space for 7 years. How many technology iterations we have been doing? This is 7th iteration of the technology versions. Hardware versions. Just think about the changes we have to go through, have to endure. And that's entirely different pace. So, but it's extremely exciting. I never regret a bit. And I just felt that it broadens your view. And instead of the narrow view, you now have a broader view. We link multiple disciplines, multiple industries, and really looking to bring the best and the most value and to the constituents, to the stakeholders. So, but it's challenging. Sounds exciting.
So in that same stream, what has been your proudest achievement, and what has been your biggest learning in these last 18 years?
So achievement, I don't know if I have achieved anything. You always look back and you say, you know what, hey, time flew by. I'm just still Robin and, just doing some different things, but you constantly want to see if I have a way to add value and to innovate yourself. So I guess, for really biggest achievement is, we did a couple of things that I felt proud. One is actually we built a blackout risk model. And,
Like what, sorry?
Blackout risk model. It's completely unrelated, you think of. So actually developed the tool to analyze hurricanes, winter storms, severe thunderstorm, human errors, operator errors, and the infrastructure failures, and to analyzing frequency and the severity of the power outage across the United States and North America. So that's a blackout model. I think I was very proud of it, and it was a good achievement. But then I think the second one I would say is IoT. IoT, because I'm still in it, I cannot say I achieved anything. But 7 years, it's a long time, but it's a short time. A lot of sweat and tears go into it. And I would say, I'm glad I'm part of that journey. I'm glad I really one of the early founding members for HSB's effort here. And we just have a great CEO, great leadership team, and had a vision, never gave up. And it's just a great journey.
Excellent. So in the, I know you have long days of work. We were talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
And, it does get boring, but everybody has some hobbies or some ways to take the mind off and refresh and charge the batteries. What do you do to charge your batteries?
Nowadays, play with kids. So my wife would drag me out early in the morning, and we have our routine. Go for a run, drag the kids, whip the kids, and I push them to the exercise, do push-ups, and all that. So I do the bike ride. So that's a lot of fun with kids. But otherwise, I used to play a lot of basketball. And although my knee slowly giving up, but I still play. Just the biggest hobby I mentioned to you. It's really spending time with kids these days, and just see them grow. You exercise with them, bike ride with the family, and this keeps you going, especially during the pandemic. And for the days before the pandemic, I do a lot of sports. I play basketball, I swim, and I used to be a swimmer. So it's some of those things I continue to do as long as my body allows, and I will continue to be active. And I think that keeps you going as well. And that's pretty much all the times you have, and besides the long hours. Yeah.
Nice, awesome. Who? We're now moving towards almost the last segment, but I always ask my guests, who do you like? Who are some other guests that you would like to hear from, so that we can, try to get them on our show?
Yeah. So, I think from an insurance industry perspective, I think I would like to hear some of those leaders who scale, who make the business happen, take actions, those type of. I have to give it a thought. Pankaj, I didn't prepare for that. You probably have to add it off, but I think I have to think about it.
No worries. All right, so Robin, let's say you mentioned that you started your life on a cargo ship, right? Mm-hmm. And you did some studies and then you joined insurance. Let's say you have the benefit of all the knowledge and the experience that you've gained since you were that young boy, but you now have an opportunity to go back in time and relive your professional life all over again.
Yeah.
How would that look like?
Yeah, that's a deep question. Life, a certain parts of my life, professional life, I probably still want to go through, even including the cargo ship piece, because I think that is a trained my character. It made me more resilient, and I'm able to conquer difficulties and never even give a second thought. Just think I can go through, because it becomes your second nature. You're just gonna go through difficulties and never say no. So that part I probably will not give up. But on the other hand, in terms of developing career, you always want to do bigger and better things. And do I regret I choose insurance as a career? At this point of time, I would say no. And I chose a career, and I liked it, and I enjoyed the role. But if I have to make a choice to say, what really I want to do at that point of time, and let's say 15 years ago, I may want to go into technology altogether. if that's a choice, and I probably would really go into technology altogether. And because seems to be in the technology, especially scalable technology, and you can make a big difference very quickly. And so I think that probably would be my choice. And if I look back, but am I regretting? No, not at all. I enjoy the role. I continue to enjoy the role, and it's just a great industry right now to be in.
Excellent, excellent. Well, in this very last segment, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up two choices for you, Robin. Just pick one up and tell me why you chose that and why. I mean, why you chose that. So let's start with, I know the answer to this one already, but sports versus reading.
I choose sports.
And why?
Sports gives, when you spend so much time at work, reading, analyzing, thinking, doing the things, you need to break the sweat. Nothing like a good sweat. And a good sweat gets you recovered, get you re-energized, and you go at it again. And reading is a luxury when you have good times, relaxing times, and then you kind of.
Got it. Vacation spots, mountains or beaches?
So it changes. In the past, I would always love to be on the beaches, because think of a glass of margarita and lying down and on the beach. That's so relaxing. And but over time, I started to like hiking with the kids, because main reason the kids are older, so we actually can do those type of hiking that in the past would be deemed to be too dangerous or too challenging. So we now actually can do it together. So I would say I still love beach. I will never give up a beach, but in this stage, I may choose hiking a bit more as a mix.
Got it. And since you said you like to play basketball, I have to ask you, LeBron James or Michael Jordan, all-time favorite?
Oh, Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan. That's there's no one can compare with him, and he is my hero. Michael Jordan is my hero.
And why?
He is just a super competitive guy, and they're just super focused. And he just shut his ears and from any other things that can potentially challenge him or annoy him, and he just focused on the court to do the best he can do. And I love that. I love that part of the character, and I love that part of the sportsmanship. And frankly, you look at those days. He grew up, and he took on the punches when his father passed away. And I just felt that, he's a guy that he's a tremendous family value, and looks into the things that put the best effort forward. And so that's why.
Cool. Well, on that nice note, I think we've come to the end of the show. Are there any final words you want to share with our listeners?
Yeah, I think listeners maybe one point of advice is, in the technology world, it's hard, especially insurance technology. And there's many roadblocks, many challenges. Don't give up. When you get started, that journey just means it's getting started. And if you give up half of the way, you will never see the light at the end of the tunnel. And it is hard. The only way to achieve that, to go through that, is understand the challenge and think creatively, think out of the box. And there's always a solution if you think hard enough.
Well, great. With those words of advice, we come to an end of this show. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of Verbal Ponderings, and we'll be back very soon. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you. Thank you, Pankaj.